Welcome back to Agawam Bowl for the second round match in the February Western New England Pro Tour tournament here at Agawam Bowl. This match is going to feature Jim Ayotte, who is fresh off a win over Doug Feely in the first round, versus Brian Mayer, who is the number 3 seed. As you can see, Brian qualified number 3 with a 618. That's for 5 strings. And Jim Ayotte was the number 5 seed with 589. The way it works is, in these tournaments, the field bowls 5 strings, and then they cut to the top 5 for stepladder match play. And if you watch these tournaments over the years, you've probably recognized that Brian Mayer has been a fixture on the Western New England Tour for quite a while. He's pretty much a regular in match play. He's been a winner on this tour a number of times. I'm not sure exactly how many. Jim Ayotte is a relative newcomer to the Western New England Tour, but he's a regular on the Pro Series and the World Invitational Team Tournament and other pro competition here in New England. Brian Mayer with a kind of a strange lead. He had the 1, 4, 6, 7 and a piece of wood, and after his second ball he's still got the 1, 4, 6, 7 and a piece of wood. That's going to be a 7 for Brian in the second box. Jim Ayotte also with a 7. So Jim Ayotte retains a 1-pin lead through 2 boxes, 17 to 16. Brian is a native of Western Massachusetts. Jim Ayotte comes from New Hampshire, as you might know. Brian with a nice bid on that half Worcester left. Got everything but the 4-7. And Jim Ayotte had that check mark leave over on the left side, 2, 4, 5, 7. And both guys with 9 boxes in the third, so Jim still leads by a pin. Off to a little bit of a slow start on both sides. Brian Mayer with a nice ball, a little bit high on the head pin on the left side. Brian is looking at the 3, 7, and 10. Some wood behind the 3 that might help him make this. And that's a nice try. He tried to get something to go over and get the 7. Wasn't able to do it. Jim Ayotte, meanwhile, is on the board with his pair. Converts that 2-pinner, the 3-5, for the first mark of this match in the 4th frame. Brian Mayer once again on the head pin. This time he's got 8 and a legitimate spare lead, the 4-7 2-pinner. Jim Ayotte with 7, and he has kind of a difficult lead, the 1, 3, and 8. The problem there is getting something to go back and get the 8-pin, as Brian Mayer covers that spare in the 5th to get on the board. And there's a nice shot by Jim Ayotte. We will look at it in slow motion. You'll see that the ball actually goes back to take the 8-pin. There was a piece of wood at an angle in front of the 3, and that directed the ball to go back over. So that's 2 spares in a row for Jim Ayotte. And he's got a 9-pin lead on the scoreboard, as they will switch lanes. Brian Mayer goes over to lane 17, and Jim Ayotte will finish the match on lane 18. See what both of these guys can do on the spares that they recorded in the 5th. Jim Ayotte, nice ball, but he doesn't have a very good leave there at all. He's got the 4, 5, 7, and 10. 6 drop on the spare. Meanwhile, Brian Mayer with a 5 fill on his, but he has a better lead. sort of a check mark +1 in the corner. 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. And he's got it. So that's 2 spares in a row for Brian Mayer. Jim Ayotte with a 9-box meanwhile. And in slow motion you can see a pretty high hit on that 2-pin by Brian Mayer. I think that wood in the middle of the bunch probably helped him to cover everything and get his second consecutive spare. Jim Ayotte with a strike. He got a very high hit. It's a nice sidewall action to get a strike out of it. Brian Mayer with 9, and he has a tough piece of wood in front of that 4-pin. He's probably going to have to hit it high and push it straight back if at all possible. And he's got a nice shot there. 3 marks in a row. As we look at the strike by Jim Ayotte, that 6-pin comes flying off the wall, comes all the way back over to get the 2 and 4. 3-pin went to the wall and then kicked off the wall into the 6-pin, which came over and wiped out the left side. So that's a strike in the 7th for Jim Ayotte. And a nice ball there, trying to go for a double, dropping 8. And a strike by Brian Mayer. Strike on spare. Really, both guys heating up after the slow start. And there is spare on strike for Jim Ayotte. Here is a pretty robust 1-2 pocket hit for Brian Mayer. That gets out of there in a hurry. And Jim Ayotte with a nice shot using the wood to cover the 5-7. The ball takes out the 7. So they are tied right now. It's 98 to 98 plus the mark fills. Jim Ayotte filling that spare with 6. That gives him 104 through the 8th. Brian Mayer drops 8, and he's got the 6 and 10 with a piece of wood out front. He needs to try and push it straight back. And that doesn't go. Brian went a little bit too far to the right out toward the end. So that's a 9 fill on the strike, and that gives him a 3-pin lead. And both 9 boxes in the 9th. So it's still a 3-pin lead for Brian Mayer with 1 box to go as we look at the spare that almost went anyway, but you saw he went a little bit too far toward the end of the wood, and so he wasn't able to cover the 10-pin. So Brian Mayer nonetheless leads by 3 with 1 box to go. Jim Ayotte throws, and that's tough. He punches out the half Worcester, and he's going to have to make that with the 3-pin deficit. And there's a strike by Brian Mayer. So that's, unless Jim Ayotte can make this spare, and it doesn't go. So that will do it. Brian Mayer is going to advance with a victory in the quarterfinal round, and he will go on to face Nick Norcross. Brian accepts the handshake from Jim Ayotte, and he'll finish the last 2, almost through a double there, but that will put him in the 130s. It's going to be a 9 box, so he has a 135 game, and that is the result in this match. Brian Mayer 135, Jim Ayotte 119.